Hey there, grammar fans. Welcome back to another edition of our Grammar Fans video series. This is the second in our two installments about the use of adjectives in effective writing. Adjectives, as I mentioned in our last video, are frequently maligned and often rightfully so. They can make writing excessively clunky and excessively wordy, but there are times when one might choose to use adjectives to really enhance the quality of a piece. When thinking about the new year, here we are here in January 2017, oftentimes people direct a lot of their attention around the new year to exercise, but also to what they eat. So what we're going to think about today is the use of adjectives in menu items. Now, research by a psychologist who studies neuromarketing named Dr. Brian Wansink identified 4 different categories of adjectives used in restaurant menus. These 4 categories are geographic, nostalgic, sensory, and branded. Now, when you think about it, those really do represent a great deal of the kinds of adjectives that are used in menu descriptions. Personally, I had never thought about this very much until reading Wansink's research and other related documents that talk about the kinds of adjectives that marketers will use to make their products, especially food products, as appealing as possible to their audiences. Let's take a look in a little bit more specific detail at those 4 categories that Wansink identifies. Now, the geographic, that most frequently shows up on menus as things like Southwest or anything where a certain flavor is ascribed to a particular region, then those are oftentimes used to make those particular menu items as eye-catching and appealing as possible to prospective buyers. Nostalgic, you'll often read things on menus along the lines of harvest fresh, things that might evoke a feeling of not just quality food, but also quality food that is related to, say, a certain period of time or a certain way of life that a prospective buyer might have a positive connotation with. Sensory, words like fire-grilled, creamy, spicy, that really allow for, through our reading of a menu description, for us to envision how that particular item would engage with our senses. And then branded. Oftentimes in menus, you'll see things like Jack Daniel's flavored barbecue sauce or other kinds of specific connections to brands. Some research that I had read about branding, specifically in an article from a Journal of Neuromarketing from March 2011, identified this as something that's particularly costly for menu creators because they do have to pay for the right to use those brands, but the fact that they're continually used suggests that this is something that has paid off and research suggests will continue to pay off. So when you think about the menu items that you might peruse throughout the new year, in addition to keeping in mind diet and health and anything else you might be interested in, think about these adjective categories. It can allow adjectives to really come alive, and for us as students of grammar and students of writing to think about the strategies of adjective use in a different way, not just something that we might use, say, in a story to spice up the language a little bit, but also something with a very specific real-world practical application. How these different categories that Brian Wansink identifies, geographic, nostalgic, sensory, and branded, show up in the menus with which we interact. And we can think about how that may or may not impact our decisions. For the teachers who might be watching this video, it can be interesting to have students take a menu description from a restaurant's website and then identify the adjectives in it, think about which categories those align with, and then even replace those adjectives with new adjectives and think about how that might change the menu description and how that might make it either more or less appealing for a potential buyer. So thank you very much for checking out this segment of the Grammar Fans video series, where we took a look at the use of adjectives in menu items, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care.